guys, welcome back to the channel, and on today's video I am bringing you my review of the On Cloudsurfer Max. And look, if you've been following along and you are watching this video like around the time it's released, you know that I have been injured for a little while, but the Cloudsurfer Max, I got these before I was injured. So I started running in them before my injury. I took a couple months off for that injury, and then I went back and I've been running in them recently. And finally, I am here to give you my opinion on the Cloudsurfer Max. So why don't we just get into it? Alright my friends, you know the drill. We'll get started with those disclosures. On was good enough to send me this pair of the Cloudsurfer Max for the purpose of review. However, they haven't told me what to say. They don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. But that's it. You're going to be able to pick up a pair of the On Cloudsurfer Max for $180. And why don't we just get started with that price? Because that price is a little high. Although, saying that, it's right in line with On shoes. You know, there is a premium for On shoes, and if you don't mind paying that premium for On shoes, then the price of $180 really isn't going to make any difference to you. When we start looking into some of the competitors, yeah, the On Cloudsurfer Max is just a little higher. Now, even though On shoes are just a little bit expensive, they really do look nice. And to me at least, On shoes do give a premium feel. They have a premium look, and that is probably why they can command just that little bit higher of a price. Now, like I've already said it 100 times already, but the Cloudsurfer Max has Max in the name, which leads you to believe it is a Max cushion shoe. And with 37 in the heel, 31 in the forefoot for a 6mm drop, I suppose it is a Max cushion shoe. But I tell you what, when I think of Max cushion shoe nowadays, because all these stack heights are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, I definitely think of something over 40mm as being Max stack. Like, don't you? To me, 37mm in the heel is just squarely in the mid-stack space, but maybe that's just me. I know historically 37mm in the heel is definitely a max stack. It's only recently we've all been conditioned to think that these super high stack heights are normal. And I guess really they're not. But I guess the max could just be a name. Perhaps On doesn't want to go any higher than 37mm, so for them this is a max stack shoe. I guess that makes more sense. But either way, 37 is a fair amount of stack, and a 6mm drop is going to appeal to a lot of runners. You know what I mean? It's right in that sweet spot. On claims to the US men's size 9, which at the scale at 10.3 ounces or 292 grams. However, in my size, the US men's size 12.5, it'll tip the scale at 12.6 ounces or 357 grams. So definitely not the lightest shoe out there, but I tell you what, the On Cloudsurfer Max is not built for speed. This is going to be your long run shoe, your easy run shoe. I would say it's more like a long run daily trainer shoe, but we've got to remember we also have the Cloudsurfer 2, which really is On's daily trainer. But we'll talk more about the other Cloudsurfers in just a second. So let's start at the top and work our way down, and I'm gonna just hold that up so you can see we do have that padding coming around the heel collar, and it's quite pronounced. There's a lot of heel padding in there, but it's recessed just a little bit behind this knit upper, which I really like. And if I had to say, just to me, I don't think this actually means anything to anyone else, but if I had to say to me what equals a premium shoe, like what features equal a premium shoe, I'm going to say it's this little bit right here. This little bit of knit that comes a little higher than the padding. I don't know why. I think it just looks nice. And that little bit of knit does come around here to the back, and we have a nice heel pull on the back. However, I don't know who your models are for these heel pulls, but I don't have fat fingers really. I mean, maybe I do, but I'm just having a trouble getting my finger in this heel pull to pull it on. Yeah, I can kind of get the tip in and just pull it on. I haven't had any troubles getting the shoe on, but it is just a little bit awkward because that heel pull is so small. Anyway, moving on to the heel counter. Nice and rigid. I didn't experience any heel slip in the Cloudsurfer Max, so that's a good thing. Now, the upper it's a lightweight breathable mesh. It's fairly standard as for this kind of shoe, and running here in Florida in the Cloudsurfer Max, I didn't experience any issues with it being too hot and stifling. Like, I found it breathable enough. Obviously this is not a race day shoe, so there needs to be some structure to this upper, but it doesn't seem over the top. We do have lots of laser cut holes here in the toe box. Yeah, it worked just fine. Plenty breathable. Now, I'm really a fan of the tongue on this shoe. The tongue is very thin coming through the middle, but they've got this padding coming down each side of the tongue, and the padding is right underneath the eyelet chain. So when you do cinch down those laces, the pressure from the shoe is going to be right along the eyelet chain. So On has strategically placed that padding just underneath it, so you're not going to get that pressure on the top of your foot from cinching the laces down too much. Everywhere other than those long pads is very thin and knit, really a stretchy knit, but you know, a knit nonetheless. And we do have a tongue pull here on the front, which is actually very big, and gosh, I can get 2, I can maybe get 3 fingers in that tongue pull. So yeah, maybe the tongue pull is just a little too big and the heel pull is just a little too small. The laces do what laces do. I had no issues with them. They tied, they stayed tied. Where I did have an issue is right here. Now you see these eyelet holes right here. Basically they're just little loops, but these loops are not tight enough to actually grip the laces. So when you put your foot in and you pull them tight, you create that tightness coming down the eyelet chain. Because these eyelets don't actually grip the laces, you have to be very careful not to let the laces kind of slip back through and become too loose. Now that is a problem probably only for the first or second time that you put on this shoe, because you do kind of learn to deal with it. There is a way to just kind of move your fingers and hold the laces in place so they don't slide through, but if you're not paying attention, you are not going to get the correct tightness of laces coming down the whole length of your foot. Oh, also, the tongue is gusseted on both sides. There is no lace loop in the front, but yeah, it's not needed if the tongue is gusseted. Okay, so let's come down to the midsole. And this, oh, you know what I haven't told you about? This, the Cloudsurfer Max, is actually replacing the Cloud Eclipse from 2023. And the Cloud Eclipse was just one of my favorite on shoes of all time. So I was really looking forward to the Cloudsurfer Max just for something that kind of upgrades it. But here is a newsflash. The Cloudsurfer Max is not just an updated Cloud Eclipse. It rides completely different. And we'll get to the differences in the ride in just a second. But first of all, I can say that the fit of the upper on the Cloudsurfer Max is better than that of the Cloud Eclipse. For me, the Cloud Eclipse was just a little too roomy, a little baggy maybe. The fit of the Cloud Max is much better in my opinion. Now, of course, you do know that I have gone down to a US men's size 12.5 in the Cloudsurfer Max, and usually I wear between size 12, 12.5 to 13. So this is right in the middle of my normal shoe size. I would say go true to size for this shoe. Now, for the midsole, On is using their Helion Superfoam, and if you have seen any On shoe, it probably has Helion Superfoam in it, and Helion Superfoam is On's catch-all foam. Now, each Helion Superfoam is not the same. They're all not created equal. Basically, that is On's recipe for foam, and they can tweak it depending on what they want the shoe to do. Now, the Helion Superfoam is an EVA OBC blend, so some Helion Superfoams are going to be very soft, some are going to be firmer. On has tweaked the Helion Superfoam in the Cloudsurfer Max to make it just a little firmer than the Cloud Eclipse. So part of the reason that I really like the Cloud Eclipse was that it was really soft. And generally speaking, I do favor a softer ride. So my first impressions of the Cloudsurfer Max was that this thing's just, it's a little too firm for my taste. However, it's not too firm. In fact, I very easily got used to it after, even in the first run. And I think, as always, it's my expectations that trip me up. I was expecting the Max to have a ride like the Cloud Eclipse, and it didn't. It was just a little firmer. Now, the firmness of the Cloudsurfer Max is actually On bringing it back to where they originally started. In the beginning, On used to have very firm shoes. But let's just say that you love On shoes, but you wanted a slightly softer ride. Well, you can still stay within the Cloudsurfer family, because the Cloudsurfer 2 is actually a little softer than the Cloudsurfer Max. And for those of you that want to just pick up the pace, and to pick up the pace we sometimes need a little firmer ride, and you still wanted to stay in that Cloudsurfer family, of course we have the Cloudsurfer Next, and the Cloudsurfer Next really is quite a firm ride, and you can see that the whole Cloudsurfer family has the same CloudTech phase cushioning system, and that's those kind of like slanting, I don't know, dominoes falling over, it looks like. That's what those holes are. Now, of course, if you didn't want a shoe that was too firm, or a shoe that is maybe too soft like the Cloudsurfer 2, the Cloudsurfer Max is going to fit nicely in the middle. So let's just come down to this CloudTech phase, and the On Cloudsurfer Max has a double layer of CloudTech phase. And basically, if I hold that up, you can see some of these are just at different levels. So this one is a little higher, this one is a little higher. Those are basically the dual layers of CloudTech phase. And when you are running and you're landed on your heel or you landed on your midfoot and you roll forward and toe off, these little spaces collapse sequentially and help you move forward. It works pretty well, or at least if it doesn't work, it feels good underfoot. Now, while I have the shoe turned over, we may as well talk about the outsole. And look at that. This outsole I'm actually pretty happy with. It's a fairly thick layer of outsole rubber. We do have this midline channel, which is filled in and is not deep enough or narrow enough to catch rocks, or I suppose you could catch a rock of the exact size that would fit in that channel, but I think it's going to be difficult. As far as wear goes, yeah, I'm seeing a little bit of wear on this heel, but as of the making of this video, I have run over 50 miles in the Cloudsurfer Max. So with that said, I think these are going to stand up to, I don't know, maybe a little over average, maybe average. I'm going to say around 400 miles, or let me rephrase that, I don't think anyone's going to have any trouble getting 400 miles out of this shoe. I am seeing just a little bit of wear up here on my forefoot, but again, I think it's totally normal. Okay, so if you are thinking of picking up a pair of the Cloudsurfer Max, you might be looking at some of the competition. And to be honest, I don't have enough of competition on hand to actually tell you what would really be a good comparison, because remember, the 6mm drop is everything. And if you're looking for a shoe with a 6mm drop, then you're probably not looking at a lower drop or a higher drop, right? You want that midline. But still, as far as ride and use case scenario, I think if you're looking at the Cloudsurfer Max, you might also be considering the Adidas Supernova Rise 2. Now, the Supernova Rise 2 is only $140. Right? And as far as like premiumness goes, the On takes it by a mile. These shoes are not comparable in that way. Like really, the Supernova Rise 2 is more like a budget trainer. We have a similar stack, at least in the heel. We have 36 in the heel, 26 in the forefoot for a 10mm drop. Now the Supernova Rise 2 is quite a low profile shoe and the weight reflects that. In my size, it tips the scale at 328 grams. And remember, my size in the Cloudsurfer Max is 357 grams. All right, next up we have the Mizuno Wave Rider 29. Now the Wave Rider 29 comes in at $150, remember, $180. And now we have just a little more premium build, at least compared with the Adidas. And the Wave Rider 29, at least in the heel, has more stack height. We now have 39 in the heel, 29 in the forefoot, again for a 10mm drop. And in my size, the Wave Rider 29 tips the scale at 325 grams, compared to 357 grams for my size in the Cloudsurfer Max. Finally, we have the Saucony Triumph 23. Now the Triumph 23 is fairly similar in price, it's $170. So the Cloudsurfer Max only has a $10 premium over the Triumph 23. We have the same stack height in the heel of 37, but we do have a 10mm drop in the Triumph 23. And the Triumph 23 is quite light at 316 grams in my size. So the Cloudsurfer Max weighs 41 grams more than the Triumph 23. But each of those shoes are quite a bit softer than the Cloudsurfer Max. So if you are looking for a much more premium package, you're looking for a slightly firmer ride, I think the Cloudsurfer Max could be a shoe for you. But guys, what are your thoughts? I would love to hear from you. First of all, I want to know, are you a fan of paying that premium for On shoes? Based on my own observations of what I see just out in the wild, people are absolutely crazy for On shoes. So there's a lot of people out there that are willing to pay this price. And it's probably because they look so good. Out of all those competitors I just showed you, this is definitely the best looking shoe. This thing is sharp. So please drop your thoughts, drop your comments about the Cloudsurfer Max, and if you will be picking up a pair for yourself. But for now, it's Matt B. This has been my review of the On Cloudsurfer Max. Guy and be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.